that leads me perfectly to Scream. Now you may be like, oh Finn, you talk about Scream all the time. It's like it's one of your favourite horror movies or something. Yeah, it is one of my favourite horror movies, and this is why. Because as someone who's seen a lot of classic horror movies, it pays a lot of homage. And you may be like, oh, it's just like a kind of like a mixtape. No, it really respects what horror is. Anyway, so I'm going to give a quick plot synopsis of Scream, and I'm going to just go into detail about it. So Scream follows a group of teenagers that get chased by a killer. I know, original. And that's basically it, and that's the point of the story. It's a very generic slasher movie story, you know, like even like your Friday the 13th, your Halloweens, and especially your Nightmare on Elm Streets. So, yeah. But the difference is, the slasher knows horror movies. And you'll be like, oh, that's just like a little thing, like a little character quirk. No. It's built into the lore of the thing. It's like, they follow the rules of horror movies. They point out the flaws with all those original movies. And there's even like a bit where Wes Craven points out errors in his own work. He says that his work began good, that like, because the Elm Street movies were his legacy. He kind of made the first one, worked on the third one, and made I'm going to say the last one up to that point, because Freddy vs. Jason hadn't come out and you had the reboot by the time Scream had come out, but he didn't work on the other ones. And he was saying that, with the exception of the ones I've worked on, the rest of these are trash. And he kind of was like, I hate to say it, but he was kind of like insulting his own work, which I think is cool, because, like, what director do you know that's like, you know what, all my work is formulaic, everything I've done is a cliche, now let's just have some fun with it. And that's why I kind of respect Wes Craven, because he understood that horror movies are limited. He understood that, in particular, slasher movies are very limited in the type of stories they can tell. However, he took this and made something that I think is a perfect... it's not a perfect movie, because perfect movies don't exist, but it is a very good character study, because you're like, with all the type of killings and serial killers that go on today, especially like, I think it's the Jamie Barra case, I think it is, which is where two teenage boys murdered a child on a train track due to the fact that they watched horror movies, in particular Child's Play, which is ironic, because Child's Play has nothing to do with train tracks. Anyway, getting back to the point. So he's basically stating that horror movies can influence people, kind of like a hypodermic syringe, if you will. And the fact that they influence people can be positive and negative. Like, he points out the good things about horror fandom, but he also points out, yeah, it can make you into a serial killer, which I really like. And it's also the clever thing he does with the sequel. So Scream 2 is a perfect comment on horror sequels. Basically the character Randy, which is kind of like your exposition character, which again is my favourite character in the movie, you'd think he would be safe because they need him for Scream 3. They need this character to be like, oh, these are the rules of horror movies. No, not even the characters you think would be safe. Killed off. But no, before they're killed off, they explain the rules of sequels, which are true. They're like, oh, we need to have a higher body count. Everything needs to be more dramatic. Which are all these true statements about horror movies. So now I want to kind of explain to you how it was made. This video is a bit random because I'm a very big fan of this movie. But another good thing about Scream, which Wes Craven has admitted is why he did it, the costume. Yeah, you'd be like, oh, it's just a Ghostface costume. That's a pretty cool thing. No. Wes Craven had a belief that horror movies worked better when the costumes were easy to buy, because it kind of made it less, do you know what I mean? Like, it made it very less chaotic, like, because you don't have to, it means that anyone could, like, fulfill themselves as the killer, basically. So that's why he loves the costumes designs of, like, Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees. So he did that with Scream, but I think he did it a step further, because he literally just brought a cheap, very cheap, basically, I think, like, Dollar Tree Halloween costume, and that became an icon of horror because of these movies. Yeah, it kind of makes me laugh, but it's the little things like that. Like, he puts effort into his films, and he's like, look, if a kid were to become a serial killer in this realistic universe, they're not going to have some high quality, do you know what I mean, like Pennywise the Clown sort of Happy Death Day costume. They're going to have some sort of really low end, very cheap costume that seals their identity, but apart from that is very, like, pretty much terribly designed. So that's why he gave him that, to kind of, again, build on the characters. The point I'm trying to make with these videos is I love Wes Craven movies because of the characters. The characters are what drive his films forward. Like, each one of his films, at least the ones I've seen, have some of the best characters I've seen. Like, he really understood the human psyche and how to make people scared, and what led them to that path is what I'm trying to get at this. And I think Scream is kind of his comment on that. He's like, look, I've made some pretty messed up stuff. I've made The Hills Have Eyes. I've made Nightmare on Elm Street. And now it would be to see the worst that could happen with this. That's what Scream is. It's kind of like a message, the bad side of horror, if you will. And furthermore, this is like a little footnote that I just thought, especially Scream, kind of influenced horror a lot, which is kind of why he is this auteur, because he gave birth to the big meta craze. Again, as I said in previous video, meta had been done before in horror quite a few times, but he kind of made it mainstream. After Scream, everything was fun, it was hip, it was like chill. Like, for example, not a very good movie, but for example, Bride of Chucky was very hip, and even like Jeepers Creepers, which again, not my favourite film. In fact, you can see it in the background there, but not my favourite film. But the thing with Jeepers Creepers is they reference things like, there's a bit where it's like, oh, remember in all the horror movies where this happens? Well, because things like that, basically, whenever guys are like, oh, all the black guys die in horror movies, or oh, have you not seen a scary movie? All of that comes from Scream, because Scream changed the industry forever, is what I'm trying to say of this. This video is very ranty, but I'll probably make a more focused version of this at a later date. But there are just my quick thoughts on Scream, and just like Wes Craven in general. So let's stop recording now.